Hey everyone, it's History Behind the Warrior, and welcome to another Mortal Kombat video. Now in today's breakdown and analysis, we're going to be talking about a pretty broad topic, and that is the history of the Kahns. Now, the title of Kahn has existed in the Mortal Kombat universe for a very long time. It is a mantle donned by many, with each Kahn really having a different ideology and way of running their realm. So in today's video, we will be talking about the Kahns of the Mortal Kombat series, what they did during their time, and most importantly, their relationship with its people, as it is a key aspect in their rule. Now, just before we jump into things, we do actually have a sponsor for today's video, and it's none other than ExpressVPN. For those of you who are unfamiliar with ExpressVPN, it's a fantastic addition to your web browsing experience, allowing you to navigate different regions in the world to watch whatever show you may desire, as there may in fact be some that are out of your grasp. Do you live in the UK or EU and want to access a service such as HBO Max? No problem at all. ExpressVPN can do that for you, and was actually how I was able to watch the Mortal Kombat movie and not have to wait for its official UK release. Now, it doesn't really just stop at HBO Max. I've also been able to watch shows from the USA on Netflix that I wouldn't have been able to do in my region, so it is super useful for accessing thousands of shows that simply may not be available in your part of the world. A big one for me was Batman: The Killing Joke, a film that isn't available in the UK. And with myself being a huge comic book fan, it was nice being able to bypass these restrictions and watch a film that I'm yet to touch. When you think it can't get any better, ExpressVPN doesn't just allow you to search the world for shows, but it also encrypts your data, meaning that absolutely no one except you will know what you've been up to and what you've been watching. So in short, ExpressVPN is amazing. I've had an incredible time using it. With that being said, find out how you can get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free by visiting expressvpn.com/hbtw or clicking the link in the description below. But without any further ado, let's continue with the video. Now, historically, the very first Kahn that ever graced the series was none other than the Conqueror Shao, appointed at the dawn of time to oversee the realm of Outworld. Much like Raiden with Earthrealm, he became the consultant and somewhat right-hand man of Outworld's at the time ruler, Onaga. Now, Onaga, much like Shao, was an ancient primordial deity of the universe. Being born a dragon, he was seen as a divine being even by the gods themselves. Along with this, Onaga exercised his power through force, being a physically imposing individual with talents in the dark arts of magic. This, of course, would in turn lead to his infamous immortal army, and then him forging an almighty empire in Outworld. From here, he would be dubbed throughout the lands as the Dragon King by both monsters and gods. So the title of Kahn doesn't actually derive from Onaga at all, as he was dubbed as a king, meaning that it was more than likely a title that Shao had bestowed upon himself following the demise of the Dragon King at his hand. You see, the reptilian overlord had been so lost in his personal quest for immortality that he didn't realize Shao plotting against him the entire time. As well, Shao himself had recently fallen victim to the One Being's influence, as the Eater of Worlds wanted to reclaim his body, and the only way to do this was by merging the realms together. So, Shao poisoned the Dragon King, and on his dying carcass, bestow upon himself the title of Kahn, effective immediately becoming the realm's ruler. Now, as Kahn, Shao achieved goals that no gods or elder gods could have imagined. Whilst the immortal army of Onaga was dead, Shao was able to unite the races of Outworld under his iron fist and enroll them in his army. From here, he would begin his pursuit of realms. Of course, from what we know, this is where Shao's conquest became legend. Shao would travel from realm to realm, conquering all that stood in his way. The Saurians and the vampires are only a few of the poor victims to have fallen before his armies. Shao's devastation and conquest was biblical, and it reached a point where what he was doing simply couldn't be ignored, and thus the Elder Gods were forced to create the Mortal Kombat tournament in the hopes of stopping or denying Shao Kahn's claim. Even with these rules in force, Shao continued to pursue his goals, laying siege and claim to the beautiful Edenia. Following these events, Shao would then set his sights on Earthrealm, where he would begin his conquest that would eventually lead up to the main line of games. Now, from what you can clearly tell, Shao as a Kahn was a ruthless, cunning, and malicious ruler. He literally had no qualms about driving a realm to near extinction if it expanded his own empire and allowed him to pursue other realms and merge them with his own. Whilst the main line of games illustrate his fall from grace at the hands of Liu Kang, that's not to say the Conqueror really lost touch here. Even when Edenia was peeled from Outworld and his empire was deteriorating, Shao faked his own demise in order to work from the shadows, and by doing so, he was able to regain control of his empire, something that would happen at the end of Deception and just before the events of Armageddon. Of course, in the reboot, much is the same with Shao's rule. The only real big changes here is that Shao narratively had conquered more realms. For example, the world of the Oztecs and the Chitans, so more were added to his collection and army. Now, in this timeline in canon, he is definitively killed at the end of 9, but upon his return in 11, nearly 3 decades after his death, the people of Outworld once again bowed before the Emperor, welcoming his return and brutality to the point where they more or less abandoned their at the time Kahn, Kotal. A final glimpse of the Emperor was during Aftermath, where with the assistance of Sindel, they were able to sway the Shokan forces to their side and storm Kronika's Keep, in which the duo killed Kotal and had effectively won the battle. That is, until Shao's own student and right-hand man, Shang Tsung, betrayed him and his empress. Now, Shao's very clear defining trait as a Kahn was fear. He ruled with a burning iron gauntlet and would have happily smothered anyone in his way to achieve his goals. Whilst he may have been a mere pawn in the greater scheme of things, there's absolutely no denying his overall impact on the series, as he defied even the Titans themselves. But what of his daughter? What of Mileena? Well, she is our next Kahn. Now, canonically, Mileena has only officially been Kahn once. While she has featured in 2 different timelines, there was a brief stint in the original canon where she did sit on the throne post-Deception, as Shao was perceived as dead, and many of the heroes had also passed. But this position of power was very quickly reclaimed by Shao upon his return. Unfortunately for Mileena, it was extremely quick and extremely brief. Now, Mileena's first ever canonical and official reign begins at the end of Mortal Kombat 9, upon Shao Kahn's death at the hands of the Elder Gods. With the seat of power open and her so-called sister dead, Mileena takes on the title of Kahn. However, unlike her father who ruled with fear, Mileena gave into utter madness and chaos. Her erratic behavior and feral nature passed over into her rule, and thus Mileena nearly destroyed Outworld from within. Her rule was cruel and honestly, just damn right heartless. She killed anyone she wished in whatever manner she liked, even if it was for her own amusement. She didn't care for politics, its people, or Outworld itself really. It was more something to satiate her lust, as well as somewhat fulfill her birthright. Because of this, many insurgencies were created to bring upon her downfall, and for many years, they all fell by her hand. But eventually, there was one amongst Shao's pantheon that finally halted her rule, Kotal Kahn. A few years after her tyrannical rule, Mileena would be stripped of her title by Kotal and even her own allies. From here, she would be cast out of Outworld, but this didn't deter her. She still believed that she was entitled to have that role, so she would recruit the likes of Rain and Tanya, and even the Black Dragons, to achieve her goals. It got to the point where she was so desperate, where she had to resort to the Amulet of Shinnok in the hopes to kill Kotal, but alas, it was not meant to be, and the former Empress is defeated, captured, and eventually killed by Kotal's general, the Vora. Now historically, out of every every Kahn that has acquired this title, Mileena, without a shadow of a doubt, was the most tyrannical. Unlike her father Shao, who had ambition and wished to conquer realms to merge it with his own, Mileena took out her ferocity on her own people. No one was safe, no one was innocent, and no one was free of her clutches. She murdered, gorged, and killed whoever she wished, whenever she'd want. She was never for the people or even the realm. She simply did what she wished. So this actually brings us on to our next Kahn, and someone who actually is the polar opposite of Mileena in that respect, Kotal. Now obviously, as you can tell, Kotal, in comparison to Mileena, was a fair and just ruler. Being more level-headed and politically minded, Kotal was able to not only restore Outworld to its former glory, but he enabled it to thrive as a community and world. They didn't have to be reliant on other realms. That, however, didn't stop Kotal from actively trying to mend bridges with other realms. Whilst unable to free the homes now merged with his own, he wanted the realm of Outworld to prosper and work with other realms for its benefit, and it truly did. Whilst far from peaceful, Kotal ushered in an era of stability for Outworld, where people could define their own destiny instead of being bound to it. But that's not to say that Kotal didn't believe in all of Outworld's older traditions. Believing in the old Mesopotamian empire saying of an eye for an eye, Kotal enforced the brutal laws of Outworld upon anyone that would break them. Unlike Mileena, it wasn't out of his own luxury, but in many cases, the punishment was far more extreme than the crime. It was simply how he believed he should enforce Outworld's laws, no matter how small the crime may be. And this could largely be due to two different reasons. The first is his Aztec heritage, and the second is his service under Shao Kahn. Now, starting off with the Aztecs, the one thing we must understand about them is that they were an ancient primitive warrior race, one that did inspire the Aztec and Mayan culture. Their existence created a huge impact on the Earthrealm, which was explored in the sadly now non-canonical Mortal Kombat X comic book series. However, from what we do know and learn is that they lived by their ancient culture and traditions, which did involve a lot of brutality. An example of this is how the Aztecs were really known for cutting out the hearts of their enemies and consuming them, something that Kotal would teach the Aztecs. Of course, this plan would backfire and indirectly lead them to dying from disease and pestilence, but nonetheless, this goes to show how defined Kotal is as an individual by his culture. Even when he served Shao, it wasn't much different. After Aztec was conquered, he was forced to serve the Kahn and even enforce some of Shao's own brutal laws. It's here where he was exposed to the realm of Outworld and its brutal yet familiar traditions. Upon claiming the throne, these laws were reinforced. So whilst Kotal in many ways can be seen as a strong ruler of Outworld, he most certainly did have flaws. But these flaws and cracks would quickly begin to show during MKX. Whilst Outworld and Earthrealm had a non-aggression pact with each other, it would all quickly fall apart upon Shinnok's return, feeling like his assistance with the Earthrealmers had led to the fallen Elder God's release. He cut all ties to the realm and even went so far as saying that he wanted to kill Cassie's team in the hopes that it may hopefully buy Outworld more time, saying that if he possibly did this, he could bargain with the fallen Elder God, build his defenses, and strengthen his own home. But it was all for nothing, as the fallen Elder God was defeated and the alliance with Earthrealm and Outworld was now permanently severed. Following this up to 11, the years weren't kind to Kotal. The loneliness and betrayal he felt showed in his rule. He became bitter and cruel, and with him being isolated from the world so much, Kotal had started to lose his grip and his kindness. A perfect demonstration of this is between the events of X and 11, where the Kahn, in an act of frustration, turned his sights towards the Tarkatans, who had previously sided with Mileena, and in an act of pure malicious rage, he drove the Tarkatans to extinction. extinction, killing every man, woman, and child. Kotal was slowly losing his grip on Outworld, despite what he had pursued and achieved for the realm. And once the time quake was initiated and Shao Kahn was brought forth, the people of Outworld abandoned both him and his beliefs, as they now perceived him as a weak, incompetent ruler. Whilst he was able to halt Shao's attack, it was too little too late. He had lost the people and even his beloved, Jade, as she saw what a monster he had become when they had infiltrated Tarkata. From here, Kotal was crippled in Shao's Colosseum and later killed during the events of Aftermath. Kotal was a Kahn unlike any other, and for a long while, he did push the realm in the right direction. It's unfortunate that his fall from grace was as brutal as it was. His time and service was definitely one that allowed the realm to flourish, but time and heartache is what truly broke Kotal. There was so much pain, to the point where even Kotal himself could see what he had become, and thus, because of this, he appointed a new successor. With Outworld in disarray, he knew he needed someone to unite it, and that came in the form of our next and seeming final Kahn, Kitana. Now, Kitana's story is understandably one of tragedy in both continuities. Having effectively been a victim to Shao Kahn's conquest, Kitana was there for all of it, so it made her rise to power pretty logical. Being a victim of his wrath, as well as being one of his bodyguards for her entire life, it was only natural that the princess would not only defy him, but use the people he had enslaved to fight back against the Emperor. Kitana united the races of Outworld together in order to bring down Shao Kahn, promising each of them a home in this realm, so they no longer had to worry about Shao's brutality. Together, they were able to defeat the Emperor and give the realm back to its people. Although this reign wouldn't last very long, due to how Aftermath unfolds and how the allied forces are defeated, she did an incredible feat none thought possible, especially because everyone still perceived her as the Conqueror's daughter. Whilst Shao conquered the realm with fear, she used unity and had the worlds of Outworld work together with each other to halt Shao's madness. Now, it's definitely a far cry from her original timeline counterpart, where she restored her home realm of Edenia with her mother, but it's still incredible to see her character maintain that form of desire for justice, even when it's not for her own people. She did this for the people of Outworld, so that they could live in equality. Now, with that being said, this has been it for the history of the Kahns. I hope you have enjoyed this video and learnt more by doing so. Each Kahn ruled Outworld in a different way that more or less displayed an extension of who and what they are as beings. Shao ruled through fear, Mileena ruled through chaos, Kotal ruled through order, and finally Kitana ruled through equality. All Kahns represent a different quality of the character, and it showed in their rule, no matter how long, short, or brief that rule was. It's very interesting to see how all the Kahns in one way, shape, or form do have very close ties to each other, showing just how much Shao really impacted each individual here, and because of this, it molded them as beings for when they inevitably took the title of Kahn. I hope you have enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun putting this one together. I do like how the Kahn title has been expanded on in 11 and how it has affected each individual. I really like what they did with Kotal and how the Kahn title eventually became a burden. It's good character development and shows how power can really chip away at someone, no matter how just they may seem at the start of it all. But anyway guys, that's it for me. So before this video wraps up, if possible, let's try getting it to about 500 likes, and please do not forget to subscribe and tick that bell, as it will keep you up to date with all of my content. But until then, that has been it for me. So for now, as always, please comment, like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I'll see you all next time.